One structural collapse, one toxic mistake, one moment of reckless speed. That's all it separates six affluent couples from their final breath, captured forever on camera. Their stories prove that wealth and status offer no protection when death comes calling in the most unexpected ways. It was August 29th, 2017, on a remote Mojave Desert highway in California. Afternoon temperatures reached 104 degrees Fahrenheit under clear skies, with long straightaways, minimal traffic, and posted speed limits of 65 miles per hour. Justin Reed, 31, operated a boutique proprietary trading firm that managed private accounts for a small group of accredited investors specializing in high-risk derivative strategies. His work afforded him both significant disposable income and flexible travel schedules. His partner, Tessa Bloom, 29, ran a luxury travel media business producing branded content for five-star resorts and invitation-only properties. Her partnerships included long-term contracts with international hotel groups, allowing the couple frequent access to high-end experiences without traditional planning constraints. The couple had rented a high-performance sports car from a specialty rental company in Los Angeles for a weekend desert excursion. The vehicle was equipped with a turbocharged engine capable of significant acceleration and top speeds exceeding 150 miles per hour. They had mounted an action camera inside the cabin to record their driving experience. The selected highway was favored by driving enthusiasts for its long straightaways and sparse patrol presence. Traffic was light that afternoon, with infrequent passing vehicles and a well-maintained surface. Justin began accelerating the vehicle well beyond posted speed limits, reaching approximately 120 miles per hour as they traveled eastbound. The camera recorded their increasing velocity and the desert landscape blurring past the windows. Tessa appeared relaxed in the passenger seat, occasionally gesturing toward landmarks visible in the distance. As they approached a gentle curve in the roadway, Justin attempted to pass a slower-moving vehicle by crossing into the opposing lane. The abrupt steering input at extreme speed, combined with weight transfer and reduced rear traction, caused the vehicle to yaw violently. The vehicle began sliding sideways before departing the roadway entirely. The car struck a concrete drainage culvert positioned approximately 20 feet from the road edge. The impact occurred at an estimated 85 to 90 miles per hour, launching the vehicle briefly airborne before it began a series of violent rolls across the desert terrain. During the second rotation, the roof and A-pillar structure collapsed inward, causing catastrophic head and cervical injuries to Justin, despite his seatbelt restraint. The passenger side window shattered during the first rollover, and Tessa was partially ejected during the third roll, with her upper torso exiting the vehicle, while her lower body remained inside, resulting in massive blunt force trauma. The camera continued recording throughout the crash sequence until the device was destroyed during impact. Two passing motorists witnessed the accident and immediately contacted emergency services. Responding highway patrol officers arrived approximately 18 minutes later, followed by emergency medical personnel. Both victims were assessed at the crash site but showed no signs of life. Justin was pronounced dead due to severe head and neck injuries sustained during the roof collapse. Tessa was similarly declared deceased from multiple traumatic injuries consistent with high-speed ejection and impact. Yaw marks and tire scuffing on the roadway extended over 400 feet prior to the point where the vehicle departed the pavement. An investigation later determined that excessive speed was the primary contributing factor in the crash. Both deaths were officially classified as accidental, resulting from loss of control at extreme speed. The recovered camera footage provided investigators with a partial but critical record of the vehicle's speed, driver inputs, and the sequence leading up to the crash. It was December 2nd, 2018, in Brooklyn, New York. Heavy snowfall dropped temperatures to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, reduced visibility to 300 feet, and coated historic brownstones with aging fire escape systems. Katrina Lane, 35, managed an interior design practice specializing in historic property renovations. She was detail-oriented and aesthetically focused, often documenting seasonal changes. Her partner, William Frost, 40, worked in architectural consulting, providing structural assessments for older buildings. He was methodical and safety-conscious in his professional work. The couple owned a fourth-floor unit in a renovated 5-story building constructed in 1912. The structure featured an external fire escape system with metal platforms attached to the rear facade. The fire escape had shown signs of deterioration over recent years, including visible rust on support brackets and loose connections. Several neighbors had filed complaints about the structural integrity. That evening, Katrina had positioned her smartphone on the interior window ledge to capture time-lapse footage of the snowfall accumulating on the fire escape platform. A security camera mounted in the adjacent alley provided coverage of the building's rear facade. William and Katrina stepped onto the fire escape platform together to observe the snowfall more closely, despite the structure being intended solely for emergency egress. The metal grating was slippery from accumulated snow and ice, requiring careful footing. Both individuals moved toward the platform's outer railing to get a better view of the winter scene below. The platform's support brackets, weakened by years of corrosion and inadequate maintenance, failed due to severe corrosion at the mounting brackets, compounded by dynamic movement on a structure never designed for sustained occupancy. The entire platform section detached from its mounting points on the brick facade, tilting forward and downward as the structural connections gave way. Both William and Katrina fell with the collapsing platform, beginning a descent of approximately 45 to 55 feet toward the courtyard level. William's trajectory intersected with a lower fire escape platform during the fall, causing severe impact trauma to his head and chest regions. The collision proved fatal due to the force of impact. Katrina continued falling past the obstruction, ultimately striking the concrete courtyard surface head first. The smartphone continued recording from the window ledge, capturing portions of the structural collapse. The alley security camera documented the entire sequence from platform failure through final impact. Residents in adjacent units heard the sound of the metal structure collapsing and immediately contacted emergency services. Emergency responders arrived within approximately 7 to 10 minutes, despite deteriorating weather conditions. Paramedics assessed both victims at the scene but found no signs of life. William was pronounced dead due to severe head trauma and internal injuries sustained during his impact with the lower platform. Katrina was similarly declared deceased from massive blunt force trauma, consistent with a multi-story fall. A structural failure investigation was initiated following the incident. Engineering assessments later determined that the fire escape's mounting brackets had deteriorated beyond safe operational limits, with corrosion severely compromising their load-bearing capacity and structural integrity. Both deaths were officially classified as accidental fatalities resulting from structural failure due to inadequate maintenance protocols. The building's remaining fire escape system was immediately condemned and removed. It was April 22, 2015, at a private airstrip outside Scottsdale, Arizona. Clear skies, light winds under 5 miles per hour, and 78 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures framed a single 2,800-foot desert runway. Victor Ray, 46, worked in corporate consulting while pursuing aviation as a serious hobby. He was methodical and safety-conscious, having accumulated over 800 hours of flight time. His partner, Heidi Lane, 41, specialized in luxury travel documentation, creating content that showcased high-end experiences. She was enthusiastic about Victor's aviation interests and frequently accompanied him to airfields. Victor owned a single-engine aircraft that he kept hangared at the private facility. The ongoing costs of private hangar rental, maintenance, and insurance placed the aircraft well beyond casual recreational ownership. The plane had been recently purchased and was undergoing transition to his operational preferences. Maintenance records indicated the aircraft had not received a comprehensive brake system inspection in the previous 14 months. The airstrip featured minimal ground support equipment, including a fuel truck that was intermittently staged near a poorly marked service turnaround adjacent to the western end of the runway. That afternoon, Victor planned to conduct high-speed taxi tests to familiarize himself with the aircraft's ground handling characteristics. Heidi positioned her smartphone on a tripod roughly 150 feet from the runway centerline, a distance she believed was safely outside the immediate risk zone. The camera was angled to capture the aircraft's approach and movement along the pavement surface. Victor began the taxi run from the runway's eastern end, gradually increasing throttle to build speed. The aircraft accelerated normally, reaching approximately 45 miles per hour as it passed the halfway point. Instead of beginning deceleration as planned, Victor continued adding power, pushing the aircraft beyond safe taxi speeds for the available runway length. The aircraft reached approximately 55 miles per hour, well beyond standard taxi speed, as Victor attempted to apply brakes for the planned stop. The brake system failed to respond effectively, later determined to be the result of severely worn brake linings and a leaking hydraulic master cylinder that reduced braking pressure. With roughly 800 feet of runway remaining, the aircraft continued rolling forward at high speed, despite reduced throttle input. The aircraft struck a parked fuel truck positioned near the runway's terminus. The impact occurred at high ground speed, causing immediate and catastrophic damage to the aircraft's forward section. Victor sustained fatal injuries from cockpit intrusion and structural collapse. Debris from the collision was ejected across the immediate area. A detached propeller blade, ejected laterally during the collision, struck Heidi despite her distance from the runway edge, causing severe blunt force trauma. The smartphone continued recording throughout the sequence, capturing the collision and immediate aftermath before the device was damaged by secondary debris. Local fire and emergency medical services were dispatched immediately and arrived within approximately 10 minutes of the impact. Emergency medical technicians assessed both victims, but found no signs of life. Victor was officially pronounced dead due to traumatic injuries sustained during the cockpit collapse. Heidi was similarly declared deceased from blunt force trauma caused by impact debris. An aviation safety investigation was initiated to examine the circumstances of the accident. Investigators later determined that degraded brake components were a primary contributing mechanical factor, compounded by excessive taxi speed that exceeded safe ground operation parameters. Both deaths were officially classified as accidental, resulting from mechanical failure during ground operations. The airstrip was temporarily closed while debris was cleared and safety assessments were completed. It was October 27, 2017, in a rural lake community in northern Michigan. Heavy autumn storms had moved through the region that evening, bringing wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour and intermittent power outages across the sparsely populated area. The temperature had dropped to 48 degrees, with dense cloud cover creating near-total darkness outside. Hugo Grant, 42, worked in private financial consulting, managing investment portfolios for clients. He was practical and self-reliant, often handling maintenance tasks at their properties himself. His partner, Sheena Berry, 39, specialized in interior design content focused on rustic luxury homes. She was creative and detail-oriented, frequently documenting their lifestyle experiences for her online audience. The couple owned a remote lakefront cabin that served as their weekend retreat. The property sat on 3 acres of wooded land, approximately 2 miles from the nearest neighbor. The single-story structure featured a partially enclosed utility room attached to the main house, connected by an interior doorway. The cabin had been in use for years and had not undergone any recent structural renovations. Hugo had installed a portable gasoline generator in this space during the previous summer as backup power for essential systems. The utility room lacked dedicated ventilation, with no exterior exhaust venting and only minor air leakage around the exterior door frame. When the power failed that evening, Hugo activated the generator to restore electricity to critical appliances and lighting. The unit was positioned a few feet from the interior doorway leading into the main living area. Sheena had set up a camera in the living room to capture content about their off-grid evening experience, intending to document their candlelit dinner and rustic atmosphere. The generator operated normally, providing power to the house while producing exhaust gases typical of internal combustion engines. Carbon monoxide began accumulating rapidly within the enclosed utility space, and dispersed unchecked throughout the connected interior areas due to the lack of cross-ventilation. The colorless, odorless gas reached dangerous concentrations as it mixed with the indoor air circulation. Hugo was first affected while moving between the kitchen and utility room to monitor the generator's fuel levels. The camera footage showed him moving with decreasing coordination before collapsing near the kitchen counter. His movements became sluggish as oxygen deprivation affected his motor functions and consciousness. Sheena continued moving around the living area for several additional minutes, her actions becoming increasingly unsteady as captured by the recording device. She eventually collapsed near the sofa, with the camera continuing to record until the power source failed. The following morning, a local caretaker who performed regular property checks discovered both individuals unresponsive inside the residence. Emergency medical personnel arrived within approximately 20 minutes and found no signs of life. Hugo and Sheena were pronounced dead at the scene. An investigation later determined that both deaths were caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. Toxicology results confirmed lethal levels of carboxyhemoglobin in their blood, consistent with prolonged exposure. The recovered footage established a clear timeline of the gradual onset of impairment and collapse. The generator was found still running and was estimated to have operated continuously for roughly 9 hours. Investigators identified inadequate ventilation in the utility room and improper indoor placement of the equipment. The deaths were officially classified as accidental, resulting from unsafe generator operation. It was June 17, 2016 in Miami Beach, Florida. The evening air was warm and humid, with gentle ocean breezes drifting across the high-rise condominiums lining the coastline. Clear skies provided unobstructed views of the illuminated city skyline. Grant Miller, 38, worked in real estate development, specializing in luxury property acquisitions. He was methodical by nature, often analyzing investments before making decisions. His partner, Iris Bell, 34, was a fitness professional who had built an online following through lifestyle content creation. She was energetic and social, frequently documenting their experiences in their oceanfront residence. The couple had moved into their renovated 12th floor condominium 3 weeks earlier. The unit featured an extended balcony that had undergone recent cosmetic improvements as part of a building-wide modernization project. The renovation work included new metal railings and expanded outdoor space. The construction had been completed under an accelerated timeline. That evening, Iris had been capturing video content of the Miami skyline from various locations within their unit. An interior security system with cameras positioned in the living area recorded movement inside the residence and captured the couple entering the balcony shortly before the incident. Grant and Iris moved onto the balcony together during the late evening hours. Security footage showed them approaching the outer railing where Iris positioned her smartphone to frame the illuminated coastline below. Both individuals leaned lightly against the metal barrier as Iris extended her device outward to capture the view, unaware that the railing's anchor points had already been structurally compromised. The railing assembly failed at its anchor points, tearing free from the concrete balcony edge in a rapid structural collapse. The structural failure occurred without warning, creating an immediate opening in the safety barrier. Both Grant and Iris fell forward through the gap, beginning a descent estimated at over 100 feet toward the ground level. During the fall, Grant's trajectory intersected with a reinforced concrete awning structure protruding from a lower residential floor. The impact caused severe trauma to his chest and head regions. Iris continued downward past the obstruction, ultimately striking the pool deck area head first. Her smartphone, which had been recording at the moment of the incident, captured brief moments of unstable downward motion before the device ceased recording upon impact. Witnesses in the pool area immediately contacted emergency services. First responders arrived within minutes of the initial distress call. Paramedics assessed both victims upon arrival and determined that neither showed signs of life. Grant was pronounced dead at the scene due to massive blunt force trauma. Iris was similarly declared deceased, having sustained fatal head and spinal injuries. A structural failure investigation was initiated shortly afterward. Engineering assessments determined that the balcony railing anchors had been improperly installed during the recent renovation, using fasteners that did not meet required load specifications. The affected condominium unit was immediately restricted from balcony access pending further evaluation. Building management evacuated adjacent units while comprehensive safety inspections were conducted on similar balcony installations throughout the building. Investigators identified multiple building code violations tied to the renovation work. Both deaths were officially classified as accidental, caused by structural failure resulting from substandard construction practices. The findings prompted broader safety reviews of high-rise balcony renovation standards within the region. It was July 9, 2017. In Biscayne Bay, Florida. The water was calm that night with light wind and steady boat traffic moving between marinas and waterfront restaurants. City lights reflected off the surface, creating glare across the channel. Mark Ellison, 41, worked in private equity operations, overseeing asset coordination and compliance for high-value real estate portfolios. His role provided significant income and long-term financial stability. His partner, Rachel Monroe, 36, operated an interior styling business serving luxury short-term rental properties along the Miami waterfront. The couple owned a mid-sized motor yacht docked at a private marina and regularly used a rigid inflatable tender for short trips ashore. Earlier that evening, they hosted two friends on the yacht for dinner. Just after 10:30 p.m., Mark and Rachel realized they had forgotten food items during their earlier dock run. They decided to take the tender back to shore alone. Conditions appeared stable, and the trip was familiar to them. The tender had been used several times that evening to move supplies. Neither Mark nor Rachel wore a life jacket, which matched their usual habits during short runs. Mark operated the motor from the rear console. Rachel sat sideways on the forward bench, holding her phone. Two nearby boaters later reported seeing the tender leave the yacht at a moderate speed, cutting diagonally across the channel instead of following the marked path. As the tender moved away, a larger cruiser passed through the channel ahead of them, leaving a rolling wake. The first wave lifted the bow. Mark reduced throttle slightly. The tender then struck a second wave at an angle. Witnesses later said the turn happened quickly, with little time to correct. The tender jolted sideways. Rachel lost her balance and was thrown over the starboard side. One boater on a nearby sailboat saw her hit the water feet first before slipping under the surface. The tender continued forward for several yards before Mark shut down the engine and turned back. Rachel resurfaced briefly. Witnesses described her movements as uneven and short, consistent with disorientation after a sudden fall. One person reported seeing an arm rise above the water before disappearing again. Mark entered the water seconds later and attempted to locate her position. During this time, the unmanned tender drifted slowly away, its engine still idling. The bay remained calm, but visibility was limited by darkness and glare from shoreline lights reflecting off the water. Several nearby boaters pointed flashlights toward the area where Rachel had last been seen, scanning the surface in widening arcs as the tender moved farther from view. Rachel was eventually located in the water, a short distance from the original point of ejection. Emergency responders reached the scene and recovered her from the bay. Paramedics attempted resuscitation efforts on the deck of a nearby vessel, but she showed no signs of responsiveness. She was pronounced dead shortly afterward. The cause of death was determined to be drowning. Findings noted the absence of a life jacket and signs consistent with disorientation following sudden ejection into the water. No injuries were identified that would have prevented flotation, but the conditions and loss of orientation likely limited her ability to remain above the surface. The tender was later secured and showed no mechanical damage. The incident was classified as accidental. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.